how would you like to make your first million? And today we have Rion Westfall joining from Texas, United States. And he's the founder of 537 BD, a Own Your Revenue product. He's a serial entrepreneur, and we would love to know, Ryan, what are the 5 steps you recommend entrepreneurs in order to make the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
I love this. 5 steps. First, understand and have clarity around your niche. What problem do you solve that no one else does? Second, understand the customer roadmap. There's 6 destinations throughout the customer roadmap that every customer passes through. Be very clear how you fulfill those destinations. Third, patterns. I have an acronym. I call it PEPSLIM: process, people, equipment, process, strategy, leadership, inventory, money. Every business can fit inside these 7 categories. So understanding your patterns. Fourth, accountability. There has to be a culture of accountability within your team in order to hit 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures business. You can't do it alone, and you can't do it without accountability. And fifth, vision. You are the CEO, you are the founder. You have to be able to broadcast this vision for all of those aspects and be the mentor, be the coach, be the guide to all of your team members.
So tell us, after a brilliant corporate career, you have decided to become no entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. So can you tell us about this transition between corporate and being your own boss? Because I'm also an engineer like you, right? And but these jobs that you have in corporate, they keep you very happy and they pay you a lot of money. So that anybody told you that was a little bit crazy what you were doing, drop all this and start to become your own boss. So tell us about this transition from corporate to entrepreneurship.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. The good part is I grew up with entrepreneurship. So my father, he's also a serial entrepreneur. My grandfather, he was a serial entrepreneur. So I grew up in the entrepreneurial world. It wasn't new to me. My wife, however, she didn't. And so it's completely new to her. And that causes a different aspect between the marriage, most definitely. But yes, I did. I went to school. I did all my training, became a mechanical engineer. I wanted to design and build awesome things. And I went into the Department of Defense to do that. And in that world, it is very corporate, government contracts, corporate, big stuff. Did a lot of cool, interesting things that frankly would be very difficult to do outside of that environment, right? You don't get the opportunity to go to special places and blow things up on purpose. And so the very fun from that aspect. Like you said, there's a lot of security around that. And that's exactly what it is. But my personal decision around that is I always, everywhere I went, I always hit a glass ceiling. And my personal characteristic is I don't like ceilings. I like to just, go as far as you can, go as deep as you can, just to be able to see how much you can actually achieve. That's my own personal characteristic. So I enjoy that hunt. I enjoy the fight for it. So when you talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, well, the good is that fits my character. Now, the bad side is, yes, you definitely are at much more risk as an entrepreneur than you are in a corporate position typically. Historically, as you already know, you pointed out even on our call here, 96% of all small businesses fail, right? They don't make it. And so when you think you're going to enter into a realm where only 4% succeed, That's, I mean, it takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And the first step to actually start, that one's easier than the steps to continue. Right? When you say the good, the bad, and the ugly truth is there's a long runway most of the time in entrepreneurship. You've got to be able to stay the long haul. You've got to be able to see that vision for the long haul. You've got to be able to build something for the long haul that is much more different than the mindset within corporate, because usually you're just kind of looking around the next quarter, the next half, depending on your position. So as an entrepreneur, you've got to have a different mindset going into your business than you do as a corporate individual.
So the platform that you're creating now is about text application. So out of the 500 millionaires that have come to this podcast, 1 out of 5 are tech entrepreneurs. So, uh, so clearly, it's a good vehicle to become wealthy. The statistics of this podcast show this. But what are the challenges of growing?
The challenges of growing a tech business, especially right now, from what I see, are just the speed of implementation. There is so much technology that is just everywhere you look. There's a new AI this, a new AI that, a new, it seems every morning you wake up, there's an announcement of some kind to here, we're going to butter your bread and make and help you wash your hair in the shower even. It almost seems crazy what half of these AI tools are for. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges is being able to adopt, right? The speed is coming through and there's so many different tools, but it's kind of like when you go through one of those giant, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, or one of these giant you've got so many tools, you've got so many different things on display, especially in an area that you're unfamiliar with. There, you can pick anyone off the shelf, but being able to sit back and understand your vision, being able to forecast out is probably one of the biggest struggles that especially tech companies, but most in general, what tech are they going to use that are going to help them in that growth, in that scaling? You and I, we talked a little bit before about when scale, most of the time they're a little bit unsure which levers to pull, which ones are going to get me a 2x growth, a 3x growth. And so we just try and we start pulling this lever. And as a result, we often end up scaling more of the chaos aspect than we actually do profit. I've seen so many times that the rate of growth of chaos will often exceed the rate of growth of margin. Unless you're very, very with how you're growing, and unless you have a system and a process for that, then your rate of chaos is going to outpace your rate of margin.
Yeah, and speed of implementation is key. Growing the company, but it has to be. I remember scaling my company. I was thinking that I have a small mess here. And if I scale this as it is, what I'm gonna scale is a big mess. So let
Yeah.
me tie the press. So uh, now tell us about your previous businesses. What are the challenges and of the previous businesses?
Absolutely. I've been involved in a number of things. I started with a consulting business development firm that handled the business development of an international group. I went from there. I've been in ranching. I've been in farming. I've been in actually mining. I own my own operating company that we were set to develop our own gold mine. Sadly, it never went through, even though we were 3 years in developing it. it got shut down. So lots of lessons learned,
Oh
lots of
wow!
money spent. I've owned an oil and gas business, bringing in new technology for downhole pumps and the pumpings of hydrocarbon, where we had private equity money. You had 15 million in private equity that came in to help us grow our business. We had multiple offices in multiple states. So I've been around in many different cases of different businesses. When you talk about the successes and the failures, that's we can write volumes on that most definitely. But I would definitely
Me too.
say as an owner, as a founder, I think The times I was more successful as far as my speed of success, my rate of success, is usually when I had a guide, when I had a mentor, when I had a coach, when I had someone who, whether or not they've been through that exact thing, didn't matter as much, but somebody knowledgeable, somebody respectable, somebody that I could trust and rely and bounce solid, good ideas off of, to where I could get feedback how to handle uh, a issue, B issue, C issue within my business. Because oftentimes those issues, if they're not addressed quickly in a small business, they're just gonna. It's kind of like an infection in your body. It's just going to grow and it's going to spread and it's going to do so rapidly if you don't take care of it quickly. So I would say, looking back on all of those businesses, every time that I have scaled or grown with a greater rate of success has always been when I had a go-to person for a certain activity, for a certain expertise that I can turn to and actually just sometimes just have a conversation with and bounce questions off and ideas off of. So I've noticed when I do succeed, I usually have that in my corner pocket.
Tell us about the new business and
Yep,
why you decide to launch this one.
the new business is exactly why I had to launch it. The Own Your Revenue process is I had an itch for many years as I traveled and worked in 15 different countries, and I was doing these audits and evaluations on businesses. That was my primary focus. Is I would go into these facilities, some of them, my largest, the construction cost, the capex cost for the facility was $6 billion with a B. And so anywhere from 10
Wow.
million up to 6 billion, that was in Panama.
Wow.
And part of that, when you go into a city like that, when you go into operations, it's got political consequences and everything like that. And you're sitting across the chair in the room with the CEO to say, hey, this is why you need this and that and that and this, those different conversations, because you're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars in either development and or cost loss, opportunity loss for them. Very, very detailed. That's kind of where my engineering analytical brain comes in, where I'm really good at seeing those things because I just look for them. The that experience and doing that for so long kind of gave me the itch to write a book. And I said, I'm going to write a book. And I kept telling myself, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And finally, the summer of 2024, I decided, hey, I'm actually going to sit down and write my book as opposed to think about it. And just like anybody, you get up and you're just, hey, what am I going to write about? You know, how do I start this? And so I started putting together this process. And I'm very, very passionate about entrepreneurship, about it's really what drives our economies, it what drives our communities. And when people can succeed in those realms of doing business, they're going to be happy in so many other places. And I knew that statistic 96% fell, only 4% continue and live on. So I set a goal, said, well, I'm going to write about this. I'm going to write how to better this, how to make 4%, 5%. You know, if I can just help that one business actually make it, to actually learn to be there like these mentors were for me in some of my other businesses, then I will have succeeded. Started out to write my book, and as I was writing, I knew I just have testimonials. So I said, well, I'm going to start interviewing businesses. So I started reaching out and interviewing all kinds of businesses. And as I was interviewing them, I was refining the process. I was making it better. I mean, I had my own expertise and everything like that. But when I would interview, you know, the CPA and the tax strategist, he's talking different ideas than what I'm talking about. When I interviewed the recruiter, when I interviewed the medical person, when I started interviewing all of these different industries, they kept refining the basis and the concepts and the fundamentals that I already knew were true and had been proven over many years, over the audits and evaluations I'd conducted myself. But from that aspect, that gave rise to a tool, and it's an app that I built, the Own Your Revenue app. It's actually app.ownyourrevenue.com. I mean, anybody can go to it. And right there begins the process for which you asked me the question at the very beginning, what's a 5-step formula? And as we start going through these, those steps are included in the process. And every time without fail, so I've been doing this specific process with these interviews for over a year and a half now. Every single business, whether it's a solopreneur or whether it's somebody that's got 150 employees or anywhere in between, every single one we have always found we've hunted the revenue patterns for 7, 8 figure growth within 6 to 12 months. We've found the patterns, we've identified them, we've been able to put in the plans to execute those every single time. And so it's beautiful and amazing to actually have that kind of effect with virtually any SMB, any small, medium-sized business out there that we can go in and we can have that kind of effect. So I'm just having the time of my life launching this, pulling it together and building all these things. So we built this app here just a few months ago. So at the end of 25. So it's wonderful.
So, Ryan, what's your message for entrepreneurs that tell you, look, my business is different and you won't be able to help me? What message you have for entrepreneurs that they are telling you, okay, Ryan, the application is amazing, but my business is different. You won't be able to help me. So what message do you have?
I love that aspect because it's a challenge to me. If someone believes that they can't be helped, then whether they can or can't is immaterial. They can't be helped. If that's the true belief, as I mentioned before, through hard knocks of and experiences of my own, there were so many lessons I learned after passing through them myself. When I realized if I would have just had somebody to talk to, if I would have just had a mentor, if I would have just had a coach, use whatever term you want, if I would have just had somebody I can turn to, it would have made life so much easier. And through all of these businesses, varieties of styles that I've been, to answer your question, what would I say to a person that says the own your revenue process can't help you? I would say you're probably right if you don't believe that. But if you're serious about actually growing your business and hunting the revenue patterns that are going to scale your growth, you have a choice. You can actually hunt those patterns and know exactly which levers to pull for that growth in the next coming months, coming weeks, because I've got testimonials and experience plentiful. But if you're serious about that, give it a try. We actually just built in, I think we were talking right before this call, we built in a first thing. If it doesn't start unlocking some of the roadblocks in your mind, if it doesn't start helping you see your business in a new light, in discovering ways and methods and being able to start to see the formation of patterns, if it doesn't do that, then no skin off your back. Go ahead, give it a try. I challenge anyone to do that. And so I love that aspect because one, that's a beautiful challenge. Point. It's a beautiful challenge. And I would invite anyone who thinks that to, hey, give it a try. I'll flip the script and I'll challenge you to say, prove me wrong, right? Prove me. I haven't had anybody do it yet. So there might be someone out there.
So in fact, businesses are 80% is the same. Is the process and everything. So yeah, all business are different, but the process that make business work is actually a common factor regardless what industry. So walk us through the process, how the process works, how the application works in details. What's the process?
Yeah, in some of the details, and again, app.ownyourrevenue.com, app.ownyourrevenue.com, you'll be able to see there's kind of a menu structure and you'll be able to go through and see it. But initially, as mentioned, you asked me first question was, what are the 5-step formula? And the very first thing you have to understand is What problem do you solve that no one else does? How many times have you worked with a CPA? CPAs all primarily do the same thing, but what problem are you solving as if you're a CPA, what are you solving? If you're a manufacturing facility, what are you solving? If you're a home services company, what are you solving that no one else is? It might be regional. It might be, according to your geography. So you might have a very special niche according to the geography. Other people do it, but nobody does it in your backyard. There might be, whatever the case is, you have to be very, very clear about this. There's a gentleman, Kevin O'Leary, maybe you've heard of him, Shark Tank, right? And I have a phrase that I've always used, and then I heard Kevin say this phrase, but my phrase is clarity is power. And the more clear you are, the more power you're going to have in communication, in ability to execute and solve problems on behalf of other people. Kevin O'Leary, his phrase is clarity is capital. And capital, whether that's investment capital, whether it's customers, businesses investing in you, buying your products, buying your services, that capital, that money, that revenue is going to come to you the more clear you are. And that's coming from a person who has invested in, who knows how many startups and ventures and things like that. His comment when he talked about that, he says, I am looking for the person that is clear about where they're going, about the problem that they solve. I don't care about their history. I don't care about even the product may even not be as good. But if they're clear, there's power in there. Therefore, I'm willing to invest in that person and be able to move from there. So that's kind of clarity number one, is being able to know that. Because if you can't answer it, that question, what problem do you solve that no one else does? That's also known as, hey, what do you do? When someone comes to you and says, hey, what do you do? What they're really asking is, what problem can you help me solve? And if you can't answer that inside of 10, 15 seconds without going through a laundry list of all the things you do, then you're not clear enough. So that's kind of the beginning. Second, customer roadmap. Many people have heard these buzzwords, but very few have actually written it down. I have another phrase. If it's not written down, it's a liability. If it is written down, it's an asset. We all know inherently, especially entrepreneurs, we love assets. We don't like liabilities. That is pretty straight, pretty forward. So let's build assets. Put together a customer roadmap. Every customer you have will travel through 6 different destinations. Very first one, how does a customer find or interact with you? Regardless of what business you're in, they're going to find or interact with you some way. You might use websites, you might use podcasts, kind of like what you're doing. You might use ads, you might use, whatever it is, they're going to come to you and find you in a certain way. Second, how do they hire? How do they decide to hire? Okay, you're the right fit. Now I'm going to hire. What do you do to help them with that? Third, how does the customer become a customer? If you're in the construction, we were sitting here talking about my gold mine, years of red tape, paperwork, regulation this, regulation that, and it came to fruition. And that was after years. That takes a lot of time. If you're going to go on Amazon and buy a book, you can be done inside 60 seconds. So it varies depending on your. Fourth, how does the product or purchase get fulfilled? This is where your operations heavy. How are you fulfilling the purchase that the client has bought from you, whether it's a service, whether it's a product? Fifth, how does it get delivered? Sixth, how does that customer return for more? How do they come back to you for more? How do they help others come to you? Being very, very clear and being able to pull this out, all of that I've right now is actually free in the trial in our app. So it's laid out in a very coherent way. There's numbers and percentages and levels and accountability stuff that you'll fill in that will then give you actually more statistics even about your own business. So we've developed it in a way to allow businesses to see more clearly their own business internally, to start finding those revenue patterns. Beyond that, you're now diving even for into the, that's the beginning. Once you get into it, I spoke briefly about PEPSLIM. There's a whole series of questions that we go through to categorize, if you will, the patterns that exist in your business, and we categorize them in the PEPSLIM, that acronym: people, equipment, process, strategy, leadership, inventory, money. We're able to categorize them. We're able to, you're seeing more clarity about your business. Beyond that, there's several things we do internally for the individuals themselves, individual enhancement. I cannot help a business without helping the individual. The individual has to elevate themselves. They have to be more controlled of their time. They've got to be more disciplined in things. They've got to have a certain mindset in order to elevate. Otherwise, it's just going to be more chaos. We can provide tools, give you more things, but if you're not in the mindset as the leader to be able to get there, it's just never going to happen. Or if it does, it's going to follow. Do get there. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that we go through to help develop the individual as well as the business, and really build that culture of accountability within that of a revenue mindset within your entire team.
So, Ryan, building the applications has to be a lot of tech. We have to pay a lot of money in develop technology. But now with the use of AI, did you use AI in order to help you to develop the technology, or you use all the hard code?
So you're kind of asking, what did I use myself to be able to build this, right? And absolutely 100%. I had to be educated in the skill of automation and AI building and things of that nature. So yes, I have been on a very steep incline curve myself because mechanical engineering principles don't apply to AI per se, and neither does all the business experience I have. So I've had to learn skills myself. I have become more knowledgeable in tools like N8N and GitHub and these types of things. So one of the things that I did to answer your question is I started a while ago just recording, right? Having AI record my Zoom meetings and things of that nature. So I'd have various conversations, different people, different topics, all this stuff, and it would record these. And it was nice to have, hey, here's a short list of your to-dos, here's summary items, but very rarely did I go back to that meeting and go to, hey, minute number 42, I want to see what I said for the I just never have the time. So what I did here actually at the end of last year is I went through that kind of database of Zoom meeting recordings that I've had with all different kinds and walks of people. And there were over 600 meetings. 600 meetings. And about that, you got 600 plus hours of stuff almost. And buried in there are so many things that I talked about in counsel that I'd given, counsel that was shared with me, ways to do this, ways to do that. So that was actually the very first place I started, is pulling that together. And I started creating, right now I call him Rybot, but he's basically the AI guru that's going to be embedded in my Own Your Revenue app. So we are building that right now. So that's still to come. And we're going to put him in there so that he 24/7 can help individuals articulate their patterns as they're hunting for those patterns. And even beyond that, we can say, well, based on pattern X, pattern Y, pattern Z that we recognized, you're having these conversations, your team leader this, your general manager said this, your VP of operations said this, your CFO said this. Out of these conversations that your company is having, we're seeing this pattern. Hey, let's develop an app. Let's develop the automation. Let's put together the AI. What does your tech stack look like? So, in the process of Own Your Revenue, you're sharing these things, you're building these things so it's visible. And as it's visible, we can see it and we can make the recommendations for realization. because I can go into a business and I can identify on a small solopreneur, I can identify $1.5 million pretty easy. On one business I have they're doing in a year, we went through our first hunt, and our first hunt revealed $20 million in patterns that they were missing out on. 20 million, half, 50% of last year's revenue. And okay, that's nice. Very hard to do. They've never done it. They'd been in business for 25 years. They'd never done anything like that. Extremely happy. Everyone was happy about it. But now what? How do we realize that? How do we clawing that back? Because even if we're making a lot of money, if our margin is just not there, our business isn't good. Our blood isn't healthy. Revenue is the blood of a business. And so our blood has to be healthy. It's got to be flowing well. So that is our margin. And if we're not taking care of our margin, then it's bad blood for the business, and you're just working a job at the end of the day. So to your point, absolutely, we've utilized this tech and being able to build this so that multiple businesses. So we've started with this trial. From that trial, we are offering a DIY, do it yourself. So those individuals that maybe they're a little cash strapped, maybe they don't want to enter into a premium consulting and have me or one of my coaches on your board, if you will, for the next year to help you actually execute that growth. If you're not in that position, hey, you can still follow the process. You can still go through and reap the rewards, but we're building the tech behind it between all of these meetings and all of these brains and everything that can be able to support to help you with that. Because at the end of the day, it's all about speed. We can find these things. We know we can. Great. I can find 7+ figures in a business within about 3 weeks of working with them, if not less. I can do that. I know I've done it. But if we don't realize it, then why are we here? If we don't actually start bringing in what we've identified and the patterns that we've hunted, then it's all for naught. So speed critical. You mentioned 2 years as a threshold for small businesses. That's 24 months. So if you wait and if you delay 2 months in making a decision on whether or not you're going to hunt the right patterns and pull the right levers, well, that could very well be your kiss of death to your business. So we've got to have speed of implementation for the things that we find.
So if someone is in love with this conversation, how they can find you, how this process works, tell us about
Absolutely. The easiest way and the way we're building it is go give it a try. app.ownyourrevenue.com, app.ownyourrevenue.com. And for a free trial, you'll be in the system at that point. We'll be able to reach out to you from inside. You can reach out and schedule times with us. There's no issues there. Or if you're old school and you just want to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm right there on LinkedIn. Rion, Rion Westfall, Westfall. I know we'll have it in the links here, all stuff. But yeah, I'm not hard to find. I'm not hard to reach, and that's the truth.
Brian, but is this valuable for a startup?
It is very valuable for a startup. I have a gentleman right now that he actually just retired from the NFL, National Football League here in the U.S. He actually just retired. He spent 5 years in the NFL, and he says, I've had this idea. Can you help me? And I said, sure, we can. And so we're going through and helping build his business. We've been working with him for the last couple months now. But yes, the principles will work, whether it's startups, whether it's businesses that have been around 20, 30 years, or you're just in your first year and you're just trying to get that first million, 5 million, 10 million, wherever it is that you're at, it works at all levels.
Well, thank you so much, Brian, for that. And for all of you following the podcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable, How Brave Entrepreneur by Rion break that goal and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Awesome.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.